When a man breaks the most sacred rule his brothers live by, there are consequences. Expulsion, exile, the stripping of patches that took years to earn. But when Jake Morrison walked into that clubhouse on a rainy Thursday night and told his club president he'd violated the code, that he'd done the one thing Steel Guardians never do, he wasn't asking for forgiveness. He was asking for help saving a kid who didn't deserve to pay for his father's mistakes. This is not a story about redemption that comes easy. This is a story about the brutal cost of loyalty, the weight of brotherhood, and what happens when the only way to save someone you love is to lose everything you built. This is a story about sacrifice. And it starts 11 years ago, with two best friends who made a promise they couldn't keep. Before we dive deeper, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. And if you believe in second chances, if you believe some rules are worth breaking, hit that subscribe button, because this story will challenge everything you think you know about honor, loyalty, and what it really means to be a brother. November 2013. Cold rain hammered the roof of Mercy General Hospital in Springfield, Missouri. The kind of rain that feels personal, like the sky itself is mourning. Inside room 347, two men sat in the dim glow of medical equipment that beeped steadily, rhythmically, marking time that was running out. Jake Morrison, 28 years old, broad-shouldered, knuckles still scraped from a bar fight 3 nights prior, sat in the chair closest to the bed. His leather vest hung over the back of the chair, the Steel Guardians patch facing the wall. His hands were clasped between his knees, head bowed, staring at linoleum tiles that had seen too much grief. In the hospital bed lay his best friend, Marcus "Ghost" Reeves, 29 years old, pale, thin in a way that didn't match the man Jake had known since they were 14. The cancer had taken everything, his strength, his color, his future. All that remained was time, and there wasn't much of that left. The doctors had stopped using words like treatment or options 2 weeks ago. Now they used words like comfortable and arrangements. Marcus was dying, and both men knew it. They met in high school, two kids from broken homes who found brotherhood in engines and open roads. They'd rebuilt their first bikes together in Marcus's garage, hands covered in grease, learning through trial and error and YouTube videos. They'd gotten matching tattoos at 19, stupid, impulsive ink they'd never regretted. They joined the Steel Guardians on the same day, prospects together, patched in together, brothers, not by blood, but by choice. For 14 years, they'd been inseparable. And now Jake was going to watch his brother die. Marcus stirred, eyes opening slowly. The morphine made everything hazy, but his voice was still his own, rough, determined. "Jake, I'm here, brother." Marcus's hand moved weakly across the blanket. Jake grabbed it, held it tight. "Need you to promise me something." Jake's throat tightened. "Anything." "Dylan." Marcus's eyes locked onto Jake's, suddenly sharp despite the pain. "He's only 3. Doesn't understand what's happening. She's not strong enough to do this alone." Sarah, Marcus's ex-wife. They divorced 2 years ago. A messy split fueled by addiction and infidelity on her part. Marcus had fought for custody and won. Dylan lived with him full time. Sarah saw him twice a month when she remembered to show up. "She's going to take him, Jake, soon as I'm gone. And she's going to ruin him, drag him through her chaos. I can't let that happen." "Marcus, promise me." Marcus squeezed Jake's hand with what little strength remained. "Promise me." Jake felt his chest crack open. He wanted a promise, wanted to say yes without hesitation. But he knew the reality. Sarah had legal custody. She was Dylan's mother. And Jake was nobody. Not family, not a guardian, just a friend, a biker with a record, someone the courts would never listen to. I can't just take him, Marcus. The law. Screw the law. I'm not asking you to kidnap him. I'm asking you to be there, to check on him, to make sure he's okay, to step in if she falls apart. Tears burned Jake's eyes. You know I will. You know I'd do anything for that kid. Then promise me. I promise. Marcus exhaled, the tension leaving his body. Thank you, brother. 4 days later, Marcus, Ghost Reeves, was gone. The funeral was packed. Steel Guardians from 3 states showed up. The procession of motorcycles stretched for 2 miles. They buried him with full honors, his vest, his patches, his legacy. Jake spoke at the service, tried to, got 3 sentences in before his voice broke and he had to step away. At the burial, Jake stood beside the grave long after everyone else had left. Rain soaked through his leather. He stared at the fresh dirt covering his brother and made the promise again. Out loud. To Marcus, to himself. I won't let you down, brother. I'll watch over Dylan. I swear it. But promises made at gravesides are easy. Keeping them is where everything falls apart. 3 weeks after the funeral, Sarah Reeves packed up Marcus's apartment, took Dylan, and moved 400 miles away to Kansas City. She didn't tell Jake, didn't leave a forwarding address, just vanished. Jake tried to find him, called Sarah's phone, disconnected, drove to her mother's house. The old woman wouldn't even open the door. Hired a private investigator who charged $800 to tell him what he already knew. Sarah didn't want to be found. For 2 years, Jake searched. And for 2 years, he failed. The guilt ate at him. He'd made a promise to his dying brother, and he'd broken it. Not through lack of trying, but the result was the same. Dylan was out there somewhere, growing up without his father, trapped with a mother who couldn't take care of herself, let alone a child. And Jake couldn't do a damn thing about it. The Steel Guardians noticed the change in him. Jake had always been intense. That's how he'd earned the name Axe, because when he committed to something, he went at it like he was splitting wood, full force, no hesitation. But after Marcus died, after Dylan disappeared, something in Jake went dark. He took more risks on runs, drank more, fought more, started showing up to club meetings with bruised knuckles and no explanation. The Brotherhood tried to help. Diesel, the club president, pulled him aside after a particularly brutal fight outside a bar in Tulsa. Brother, you're spiraling. Talk to me. Jake had just shaken his head. I'm fine. You're not fine. You haven't been fine since Ghost died. I made him a promise, Diesel, and I broke it. You tried. That's all anyone can do. Trying isn't enough. Diesel had let it go that night, but he made a note. Keep an eye on Axe. He's one bad day away from doing something stupid. It took 9 years for that bad day to arrive. Present day, September 2024. Jake Axe Morrison was now 39 years old, grayer, harder, the kind of hard that comes from carrying weight you can't put down. He still rode with the Steel Guardians, still wore the patch, still lived by the code. But part of him had never left that hospital room, never stopped hearing Marcus's voice, never stopped feeling the failure of a promise unkept. On a Tuesday afternoon, Jake was at his auto shop, Morrison's garage, a small operation he'd built from nothing, when his phone rang. Unknown number, Kansas City area code. He almost didn't answer. Yeah. Is this Jake Morrison? A woman's voice. Tired, scared. Who's asking? My name is Linda Chen. I'm a social worker with Kansas City Child Protective Services. I'm calling about Dylan Reeves. Jake's entire body went rigid. I'm listening. Dylan is 12 years old. He's currently in emergency foster care. His mother, Sarah Reeves, was arrested 3 days ago on drug-related charges. This is her third offense. She's looking at significant prison time. Dylan has no other family. His father is deceased. We're trying to locate anyone who knew the family, anyone who might be able to... Where is he? Jake's voice cut through her explanation like a blade. I can't disclose his exact location due to... I made a promise to his father. Where is he? Linda paused. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. Mr. Morrison, I need to ask you some questions first. What was your relationship to Marcus Reeves? He was my brother. Not by blood, but he was my brother. And your relationship to Dylan? I haven't seen him since he was 3. His mother took him and disappeared. I've been looking for him for 9 years. Another pause. Longer this time. Mr. Morrison, Dylan is not in a good place. Physically, he's healthy, but emotionally, psychologically, he's been through a lot. His mother's addiction escalated significantly over the past few years. There are documented incidents of neglect. He's been in and out of different schools, no stable home environment. Jake's hands clenched around the phone. What do you need from me? We're trying to place him with family or close family friends before he enters the long-term foster system. If you're willing to be considered as a placement option, we'd need to conduct a home study, background check, interview process. I'll do it. Whatever you need, I'll do it. Mr. Morrison, I have to be honest with you. Your background, there are some concerns. You have a criminal record, assault, possession, bar fights, and your association with the Steel Guardians Motorcycle Club raises questions about... I'm not a criminal. Jake's voice was steel. I made mistakes when I was young. Paid for them. I've been clean for 15 years. I own my own business. I'm a productive member of society. And I made a promise to his dying brother that I would watch over his son. So whatever hoops I need to jump through, I'll jump through them. Linda sighed. I believe you, Mr. Morrison, but I don't make the final decisions. The court does. And courts are hesitant about placing children with individuals who have gang affiliations. We're not a gang. We're a riding club. I understand that, but the perception... Can I see him? Can I at least see him? Let him know he's not alone? Another long pause. I can arrange a supervised visit. But Mr. Morrison, prepare yourself. Dylan is not the 3-year-old you remember. He's been through trauma. He may not trust you. He may not want anything to do with you. I understand. I'll call you back with details. The line went dead. Jake sat in his office, phone still pressed to his ear, staring at the wall. 9 years. 9 years of searching, of guilt, of failure, and now finally a chance to keep his promise. He called Diesel. The Steel Guardians clubhouse was a converted warehouse on the edge of Springfield. High ceilings, concrete floors, a bar in the corner, pool tables, motorcycle memorabilia covering every wall. It smelled like motor oil, leather, and decades of brotherhood. When Jake arrived that evening, most of the club was already there. Tuesday nights were church nights, when the club handled official business, voted on decisions, dealt with problems.
Diesel sat at the head of the table, a long slab of scarred wood that had witnessed countless arguments, celebrations, and difficult conversations. He was 54 now, graying beard, sharp eyes that missed nothing. Around the table sat the core members: Doc, Bear, Taz, Wrench, Preacher. Men Jake had ridden with for over a decade, men he trusted with his life. Jake stood at the entrance, leather vest over his shoulders, hands at his sides. "Axe," Diesel said, nodding toward an empty chair. "Sit." Jake shook his head. I need to say this standing. The room went quiet. Diesel's eyes narrowed. What's going on? Jake took a breath. You all remember Ghost, Marcus Reeves? Heads nodded around the table. Of course they remembered. Ghost had been a good brother. His death had hit the club hard. Before he died, Marcus made me promise to watch over his son, Dylan. But Sarah took off with the kid, and I couldn't find him. I've been looking for 9 years. We know, brother, Doc said gently. We've all tried to help you search. I got a call today from Child Protective Services in Kansas City. Dylan's in foster care. His mother's in prison. He's got nobody. That's rough, Taz murmured. I'm going to try to get custody of him, go through the legal process, whatever it takes. Diesel leaned forward. That's good, Axe. That's the right thing to do. We'll support you however we can. Jake's jaw tightened. There's a problem. The social worker said my record is a concern. My association with the club is a concern. She didn't say it directly, but I could hear it in the voice. The court's not going to give a 12-year-old kid to a biker with a past. That's bullshit, Bear growled. You've been clean for years. You own a business. You're a good man. Doesn't matter. Perception matters. And the perception is that I'm not stable, not safe. Preacher frowned. So what are you saying? Jake met Diesel's eyes. I'm saying I might have to step away from the club, temporarily, distance myself, remove the patch, show the court that I'm not affiliated with a motorcycle club they see as dangerous. The room erupted. No way. You can't be serious. They can't make you do that. Diesel raised a hand. Silence fell immediately. Axe, Diesel said, slowly. You're talking about breaking the code. You're talking about turning your back on your brothers to satisfy some bureaucrat's prejudice. I'm talking about keeping a promise to my dying brother, Jake shot back. I'm talking about saving a kid who has no one else. And what happens when you get custody? Diesel's voice was hard now. You're going to stay away forever? Pretend we don't exist? Pretend this brotherhood meant nothing? No, I'd come back. Once Dylan's stable, once the court sees I'm a fit guardian, I'd come back. That's not how it works, Axe. You know that. You walk away, even for good reasons. You don't just walk back. There's a process, a vote, and there's no guarantee. Jake's hands clenched into fists. I don't have a choice, Diesel. That kid is out there alone, scared, in a system that's going to chew him up. I promised Marcus I'd protect him. And I'm going to keep that promise no matter what it costs. Diesel stood, walked around the table until he was face to face with Jake. You're asking us to let you go? I'm asking you to understand why I have to. The two men stared at each other. Years of brotherhood, years of loyalty, years of riding side by side. Finally, Diesel spoke. We vote on it. That's how this works. Church decides. Jake nodded. I understand. Everyone out, except patched members, Diesel ordered. The prospects and hangers-on cleared out. The door closed. 12 men sat around that table. Diesel laid out the situation. Jake wanted to temporarily leave the club to improve his chances of gaining custody of a kid who needed him. The debate was fierce. Some argued Jake was putting a stranger above his brothers. Others argued Jake was honoring a sacred promise to a fallen member. Some said letting him walk away set a bad precedent. Others said forcing him to choose between the club and a child was wrong. Voices rose, fists hit the table, old wounds resurfaced. Finally, Diesel called for a vote. All in favor of allowing Axe to step away temporarily, raise your hand. 6 hands went up. All opposed. 6 hands. A tie. In the Steel Guardians, ties meant the president decided. Diesel looked at Jake for a long moment. Then he spoke. Axe, you've been a good brother. one of the best, and I respect what you're trying to do. But the code is clear. We don't walk away from each other. Not for anything. Jake felt something crack inside his chest. So that's it? You're saying no? I'm saying if you walk away, you're walking away permanently. You turn in your patch tonight. You're no longer a Steel Guardian, and you don't come back. The room went silent. Jake stared at Diesel, at the brothers he'd written with for over a decade, at the patches on the wall representing years of history. Then he reached up, unzipped his vest, and pulled it off. He folded it carefully, the Steel Guardian's patch facing up, and set it on the table in front of Diesel. Then I'm out. Doc stirred. Axe, wait! I'm out, Jake repeated, his voice breaking. I love you, brothers, all of you, but I made a promise to Ghost, and keeping that promise is worth more than this patch. He turned and walked toward the door. Diesel's voice stopped him. Axe. Jake looked back. Diesel's expression was unreadable. That kid better be worth it. He is. Jake walked out of the clubhouse. He climbed on his Harley, the bike he'd built with Marcus 15 years ago, and rode into the night, alone. For the first time in over a decade, Jake Morrison wasn't a Steel Guardian. He was just a man trying to keep a promise, and he had no idea if it would be enough.
The supervised visit was arranged for Thursday afternoon at a CPS office in Kansas City. Jake drove 3 hours, anxiety building with every mile. You didn't know what to expect. The Dylan he remembered was a toddler, chubby cheeks, big eyes, obsessed with trucks. He'd called Jake Unca Jake because he couldn't pronounce uncle properly. That Dylan was gone. Jake was about to meet a 12-year-old stranger who'd been through hell. The CPS office was sterile. Fluorescent lights, beige walls, chairs that had seen too many broken families. Linda Chen met him in the lobby. Mid-40s, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, the exhausted look of someone who cared too much in a system that didn't care enough. Mr. Morrison, thank you for coming. Call me Jake. She nodded. Dylan's in room 3. I'll be supervising the visit. You'll have 1 hour. Please remember, he's been through significant trauma. He may not be receptive. He may not want to talk. Don't take it personally. I understand. Linda led him down a hallway to a small room. Table, chairs, a window with bars disguised as decoration. And sitting at the table, staring at his hands, was Dylan. Jake's breath caught. The boy looked like Marcus. Same dark hair, same sharp jawline starting to emerge. Same way he held his shoulders like he was bracing for impact. But there was something else there too. Something that hadn't been there at 3. Fear. Exhaustion. The look of a kid who'd learned not to trust adults. Dylan didn't look up when Jake entered. Jake sat down slowly, carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. Hey, Dylan? No response. My name's Jake. I was friends with your dad. Dylan's jaw tightened, but he still didn't look up. Jake glanced at Linda, who nodded encouragingly. I don't know if you remember me. You were really little the last time I saw you. You used to call me Unca Jake because you couldn't pronounce uncle properly. Finally, Dylan spoke. His voice was quiet, flat. I don't remember you. That's okay. It's been a long time. Silence. Jake tried again. Your dad and I were best friends. We built motorcycles together, rode together. He was the best man I ever knew. Dylan's hands clenched. Then where were you? The question hit Jake like a punch to the gut. What? Where were you? Dylan looked up for the first time and his eyes were burning. If you were such good friends, where were you when he died? Where were you when my mom... His voice cracked. He looked away. Where were you? Jake felt his throat close. I tried to find you, Dylan. Your mom moved and I couldn't... You didn't try hard enough. Dylan stood up abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. I don't need you now. I don't need anyone. He walked to the corner of the room, back to Jake, arms crossed. Linda stepped forward. Dylan, I want to leave. Jake stood slowly. Dylan, I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. You don't know me. You don't know what I've been through. You don't get to just show up and pretend to care. You're right. I don't know what you've been through. But I knew your dad, and he made me promise to watch over you, to keep you safe. I'm trying to keep that promise. The boy turned around, tears streaming down his face now. My dad's dead. Promises don't matter anymore. They matter to me. The boy stared at him, this stranger claiming to care, and something in his expression shifted. Not trust, not acceptance, but maybe a crack in the armor. Why? Dylan whispered. Why do you care? Jake's voice was raw. Because your dad was my brother, and that makes you my family, and I don't abandon family. The hour passed slowly. Dylan didn't say much more. But he sat back down, answered a few basic questions, told Jake about school, about what subjects he liked, about how he wanted to be a mechanic someday, like his dad. When the visit ended, Linda walked Jake out. That went better than I expected. He hates me. He hates everyone right now. But he talked to you. That's more than he's done with most people. What happens now? I submit my report. The court evaluates your application. Home study happens next week. Background check is already underway. It'll take time. How much time? Weeks. Maybe months. Jake's jaw tightened. He shouldn't be in foster care for months. I agree, but that's the system. Jake walked to his bike, climbed on, and sat there for a long moment. He'd given up his brotherhood for this. Lost his patch, lost his brothers, and Dylan still hated him. But Jake had made a promise, and he was going to keep it, no matter how long it took. The next 3 weeks were brutal. The home study consisted of a social worker inspecting every corner of Jake's life, his house, his finances, his business. His criminal record was scrutinized. Character references were called. Jake provided everything they asked for.
And he visited Dylan twice a week. The visits were awkward, tense. Dylan rarely spoke, but he started to relax a little, started to let his guard down in small ways. During the 4th visit, Dylan asked about motorcycles. Did you really build bikes with my dad? We did. Your dad had a talent for engines, could tear one down and rebuild it blindfolded. I don't remember that. You were really young. Dylan hesitated. Do you have pictures? Jake pulled out his phone, showed Dylan photos from years ago. Marcus working on a bike, Marcus and Jake at a rally, Marcus holding baby Dylan in front of a Harley. Dylan stared at the photos like they were treasure. Can I have copies? Of course. For the first time, Dylan smiled. Small, fragile, but real. It was a start. 6 weeks after the first visit, Linda called Jake. Your home study came back positive. Your references vouched for you. And Dylan? Dylan told the judge he wanted to live with you. Jake's eyes burned. He said that? He did. He said, Jake knew my dad. He's the only family I have. Jake couldn't speak. You can pick him up Friday. I'll email you the paperwork. When Jake pulled up to the foster home on Friday afternoon, Dylan was waiting on the porch with a single duffel bag. Everything he owned in the world. Jake got out of his truck, walked up slowly. Hey, kid. Dylan looked at him. You really gonna take me? Yeah, if that's okay with you. Dylan's lip trembled. Then he ran forward and crashed into Jake, arms wrapping around him, face pressed against his chest, and he cried. Jake held him tight, one hand on the back of Dylan's head, and made a silent promise to Marcus. I got him, brother. I got him. The first few months were hard. Dylan had nightmares. Woke up screaming. Didn't trust easily. Flinched at loud noises. But Jake was patient. He taught Dylan how to rebuild an engine. Taught him how to ride a dirt bike in the empty lot behind the garage. Took him to school. Helped with homework. Showed up for every parent-teacher conference. Slowly, Dylan began to heal. He started smiling more, laughing, talking about his future. And one night, 6 months after coming to live with Jake, Dylan asked the question Jake had been waiting for. "Do you miss them?" "Miss who?" "Your club. The Steel Guardians." Jake was quiet for a long time. "Yeah, every day." "Why'd you leave?" "Because the court wouldn't let me keep you if I stayed." Dylan frowned. "That's stupid." "Maybe, but it was the rule." "Do you regret it?" Jake looked at the kid, this 12-year-old boy who'd become his entire world, and smiled. "Not for a second." Dylan nodded. Then, quietly, "Thanks for choosing me." Jake's throat tightened. "Thanks for letting me." 1 year after Dylan came to live with him, Jake got a call he wasn't expecting. It was Diesel. "Axe." Jake's heart pounded. "Diesel, how's the kid?" "He's good. Really good." "Good." A pause. "We need to talk. Can you come to the clubhouse?" "I'm not sure that's a good idea." "Just come. Alone." Jake drove to the clubhouse that night, hands shaking on the handlebars. When he walked in, the entire club was there. Diesel stood at the head of the table. In front of him sat Jake's old vest. Folded. Patches intact. "Axe," Diesel said. "We took a vote." Jake braced himself. "We were wrong. You kept a promise to a fallen brother. You put a kid above your own comfort. That's not breaking the code. That's living it." Diesel picked up the vest and held it out. "Welcome home, brother." Jake's vision blurred. He took the vest with shaking hands. Around the table, his brothers stood. Doc, Bear, Taz, Wrench, Preacher. All of them nodding. "Thank you," Jake whispered. "Don't thank us," Diesel said. "You earned it." Dylan is 15 now. He works at Jake's garage after school. He's talking about joining the Steel Guardians someday when he's old enough. Jake still visits Marcus's grave every month. Sometimes he brings Dylan. And every time, Jake makes the same promise. "I kept my word, brother. He's safe. He's loved. He's home." This is what brotherhood really means. Not the patch, not the bike. It's showing up. It's sacrificing. It's keeping promises even when it costs you everything. And it's knowing some rules, some codes are worth breaking. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button. Share with someone who needs to know that loyalty isn't always simple, that love sometimes means losing everything, and that family is worth fighting for. Drop a comment saying, "Be the axe" if you'd sacrifice everything for someone you love. Because Jake Morrison gave up his brotherhood to save a kid who needed him. And when he did, he discovered something powerful. The truest form of brotherhood isn't about who stands beside you. It's about who you're willing to stand alone for.